If two people are truly meant to be together, there is one pattern that almost never fails. It does not matter how different their lives are or how unexpected their meeting may seem. This one thing nearly always appears first. Most people believe destiny looks gentle and beautiful from the very beginning. They imagine it arriving as instant comfort, effortless love, and a feeling that everything has finally fallen into place. They picture two people meeting, smiling, and somehow knowing immediately that this is the person they have been waiting for. But real destiny does not always unfold that way. Real destiny enters quietly and then changes everything. It does not always bring peace at first. Instead, it brings disruption. When two people are truly meant for one another, the universe does not rush them into being together. Instead, it creates distance. It pulls them apart, questions their beliefs, and forces them to face themselves. It tears down illusions they did not even realize they had been living with. And this is not cruelty. It is preparation. Before two destined people can truly come together, they often have to be transformed. If two people are genuinely meant to be together, there is one thing that almost always happens. Many people believe destiny looks like immediate happiness. They picture two people meeting, everything falling into place, and life suddenly becoming easy and smooth. But real destiny does not arrive in such a gentle way. Real destiny often enters your life by disrupting it first. When two people are truly meant for each other, the universe does not hurry them into love. Instead, it often pulls them apart. It removes false beliefs, challenges expectations, and reshapes them as individuals. This pattern repeats itself again and again, and that is the one thing that consistently takes place. People often misunderstand what destined love really is. They think it should feel comfortable from the very beginning, like a safe place where nothing hurts. But destined love rarely begins with comfort. It starts with recognition. The first sign of a deep and meaningful connection is not peace. It is recognition. You meet someone, and something inside you responds before your mind has time to understand what is happening. You may not feel calm. You may not feel secure. You may not even feel certain about them. Yet you feel seen in a way that unsettles you. It feels as though they notice parts of you that you usually keep hidden, even from yourself. This can feel confusing because most people expect love to feel soothing and reassuring. But destiny often feels uncomfortable in the beginning. That discomfort does not mean the person is wrong for you. More often, it suggests the opposite. It means they reflect parts of you that you have been avoiding. They mirror your fears, your emotional wounds, and your unfinished inner work. They do not see only the version of you that you present to the world. They see deeper layers, and that can feel threatening. That is why destined connections often feel intense instead of easy. They bring awareness before they bring closeness. This is also why people who are meant to end up together rarely stay together in the beginning. If two people are truly destined to share a future, life often separates them early on. This separation is not accidental. It happens for important reasons. One person may still be carrying old emotional pain. One may be afraid to become vulnerable and open. One may not yet understand their own worth. One may love from a place of fear instead of wholeness. Sometimes both people are still unfinished, and unfinished people, even with good intentions, can hurt each other deeply. So destiny creates distance. It quietly says, not yet. It understands that if these two people came together too soon, they could damage what might eventually become something truly meaningful. The separation, as painful as it feels, is part of the journey. It is not punishment. It is preparation. When destined people are separated, the pain often feels different from ordinary heartbreak. It is not only sadness, it is confusion. It feels like losing your sense of direction. You do not simply miss the other person. You feel as though something inside you has been deeply shaken. This happens because destined connections are not connected only to the ego. They are connected to growth. When such a person leaves your life, it forces you to look inward. It pushes you to face things you have been avoiding for a very long time. You begin to notice your fear of abandonment. You see how much validation you seek from other people. You recognize your habit of giving too much of yourself just to keep people close. You become aware of how often you avoid taking responsibility for your own emotional needs. These realizations are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. The pain you feel is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to awaken you. Destined love has a unique way of changing you quietly. Even when there is no communication, even when there is complete silence, something begins to shift inside you. Even when logic tells you to move on, even when there is absolutely no contact, you slowly begin to evolve. You become more aware of yourself. You become more careful about who you allow into your life. You start being more honest about your feelings and your boundaries. Things you once accepted no longer feel acceptable. Situations you once tolerated now feel exhausting. People you once chased no longer hold the same attraction. You begin to desire depth instead of surface-level attention. You crave genuine connection instead of temporary comfort. Often, you do not even realize that this growth is connected to that one person, but the transformation began the moment they entered your life. They acted as a catalyst. They started a process within you that could no longer be ignored. This type of connection does not create obsession. It creates reflection. You do not lose yourself thinking about them every single moment of every day. Instead, you start thinking about your own life, your patterns, and your decisions. You reflect on who you are and who you are becoming. You begin asking yourself deeper questions. Why do I love the way I do? Why do I fear intimacy? Why do I settle for less than I deserve? Why do I ignore my own needs while trying to meet everyone else's? Why do I keep repeating the same relationship patterns? These questions slowly reshape you. They change how you think, how you feel, and how you move through life. Destined connections work in ways that are not obvious on the surface. They may disappear from your daily life, but their influence remains. They change how you view relationships. They change how you see yourself. They raise your standards, not only for other people, but also for your own behavior and self-respect. They teach you that love is not only about being together, it is also about becoming whole on your own. As time passes, you may notice that you are no longer willing to repeat old cycles. You stop chasing people who cannot meet you emotionally. You stop ignoring red flags simply to feel chosen. You stop accepting inconsistency as affection. You stop confusing attention with genuine care. You begin valuing peace, honesty, emotional maturity, and mutual effort. This growth feels natural, even though it was born from pain, and that is how you know the connection was meaningful. Destined love is not loud. It does not always stay. Sometimes it comes into your life, changes you, and leaves. Sometimes it leaves so that you can become the version of yourself who could one day sustain real love. Whether the person returns or not is not always the main point. The true purpose was the transformation, the awakening, and the redirection toward a deeper and more conscious way of living and loving. When two people are truly meant for each other, their story rarely follows a straight path. There are often detours, delays, misunderstandings, and long periods of separation. There are moments when everything seems impossible. There are moments when both people question what they felt. There are moments when circumstances appear stronger than the connection itself. Yet something continues working beneath the surface. Growth continues. Lessons continue. Awareness continues. Even during long periods of silence, life keeps shaping both individuals into the people they need to become. That is why some connections leave such a lasting impression. It is not because they were perfect. It is because they changed something fundamental inside you. They revealed strength you never knew you possessed. They exposed wounds you had not healed. They showed you patterns that needed to end. They encouraged you to become more authentic. They challenged you to stop hiding from yourself. Many people think destiny is about finding the right person. But often, destiny is equally about becoming the right person. The connection becomes a mirror. It reflects everything that needs attention. It reveals both your light and your shadow. It shows the qualities you are proud of, but it also exposes the habits, fears, and emotional walls that have quietly shaped your life for years. It invites you to stop pretending that growth can happen without discomfort. It reminds you that the deepest love is never only about romance. It is also about becoming more honest with yourself. When you finally understand this, you stop asking only whether someone is meant for you. You begin asking whether you are becoming the person who can truly receive healthy love. That shift changes everything. Instead of trying to control every outcome, you begin trusting the process. Instead of chasing certainty, you focus on becoming emotionally stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. In doing so, you create the kind of life where meaningful relationships can naturally grow. Perhaps that is why truly destined connections never feel ordinary. Even if they end, they leave behind wisdom. Even if they are delayed, they leave behind growth. Even if they are silent, they continue teaching you. Their greatest gift is not always the relationship itself. Sometimes their greatest gift is the person you become because of them. And whether your paths cross again or remain separate forever, the transformation stays with you. Once your eyes have been opened, you cannot return to who you were before. That is the quiet power of destiny. It does not simply bring two people together. It changes them first, so that if they meet again, they can finally love each other in the way they were always meant to. It shows you your ability to love and your fear of loving. It reveals your courage and your deepest insecurities. It uncovers your hopes as well as your limitations. This journey is not always pleasant. In fact, it can be deeply uncomfortable. Growth usually is. But discomfort does not mean something is wrong. Sometimes discomfort is proof that something important is changing. Sometimes the connections that challenge you the most are the ones that teach you the greatest lessons. And sometimes the people who disrupt your life are the very people who help you understand it. The deepest connections are not always the easiest ones. They ask more from you. They ask for honesty. They ask for accountability. They ask for growth. They ask you to let go of old versions of yourself. That is why they can feel so powerful, not because they complete you, but because they inspire you to become more complete within yourself. As time goes by, you may eventually realize that the greatest gift of the connection was never the relationship itself. It was the person you became because of it. It was the strength you developed, the wisdom you gained, the boundaries you learned to set, the self-respect you finally embraced, the emotional maturity you cultivated, and the clarity you discovered about what love truly means. Real love is not only about chemistry, it is not only about attraction, it is not only about timing, it is also about growth, responsibility, healing, and conscious choice. And that is why destined connections leave such a deep mark on people's lives. They awaken something, they transform something, they redirect something, they help you move closer to the person you were always meant to become, whether the story leads back to that person or toward a completely different future. The transformation remains. And sometimes that transformation is the real destiny all along. It moves through distance, uncertainty, and deep inner work. It demands growth before union. And that pattern, repeated again and again, is the one thing that almost always happens. You think about them during moments when you are becoming more aware of yourself, during periods when you are quietly changing from within, during nights when everything around you feels silent and your thoughts become louder than the world itself. You think of them. You think of them during emotional breakthroughs that arrive unexpectedly, moments when you suddenly understand something about yourself that you never noticed before. You're not thinking about them because you are lonely. You're not thinking about them because you need attention or validation. You think of them because something deep within you understands that the connection carried meaning, and that meaning has not completely settled yet. Your soul recognizes unfinished lessons. It recognizes that something important was awakened through that connection. This is not weakness. This is not obsession. This is not attachment in the way people often describe it. This is integration. It is your inner world trying to place an experience where it truly belongs, trying to absorb what it taught you and trying to understand how it transformed you. A destined connection does not simply disappear because time passes. It remains present in quiet ways. It appears when you grow. It appears when you heal. It appears when you outgrow old versions of yourself. That is because the connection was never only about romance. It was about transformation. Many people ask why a connection like this cannot easily be replaced. They try to replace it. They meet someone new. They begin new relationships. They distract themselves with conversations, activities, responsibilities, and daily routines. They convince themselves that moving forward means forgetting. Sometimes they even believe they have succeeded. Life starts to feel normal again. They laugh, they socialize, they continue living. But beneath the surface, something still feels unfinished. There is a quiet emptiness that refuses to disappear, not because the new person is unkind, not because the relationship lacks effort. It exists because the new connection does not awaken the same depth. It does not challenge the same parts of the soul. A destined connection does not compete with other relationships. It exists on an entirely different level. This kind of connection is not built on attraction alone. It is not only about excitement or chemistry. It is not about comfort or familiarity. It is about evolution. It is about becoming more honest with yourself. It is about being forced to face parts of yourself that may have been ignored for years. Destiny works on both people separately before it ever brings them together again. Distance is not a punishment. It is a classroom. While the two of you are apart, life is shaping you in different ways, often through discomfort and challenge. One person begins to learn boundaries. They learn how to say no without feeling guilty. They learn how to stop giving more than they receive. They discover that love does not require self-sacrifice. They realize that choosing themselves is not selfish. It is necessary. The other person begins learning accountability. They learn that silence can wound. They learn that avoiding emotions does not erase them. They learn that actions carry consequences even when intentions are unclear. They discover that connection requires responsibility. One person learns self-respect. They stop accepting uncertainty as proof of love. They stop waiting endlessly for clarity that never arrives. They realize that consistency truly matters. The other learns emotional courage. They learn how to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. They learn how to face vulnerability instead of escaping it. One person learns how to stop chasing. They understand that love cannot be forced. They realize that pursuing someone who is not ready only creates imbalance and pain. The other learns how to stop running. They discover that distance does not protect them from loss. It only delays growth. Both people are changing, yet neither can see the complete picture. This is intentional. If they saw everything too early, growth would stop. The unknown creates space for transformation. Before destined people can reunite, illusions must fall. The universe removes false beliefs slowly and often painfully. Beliefs such as love should never be difficult. Beliefs such as if someone truly cared, they would always stay. Beliefs such as love must be earned through suffering. Beliefs such as another person is meant to complete you. These ideas may feel comforting, but they weaken real love. They create dependence. They create fear. They create expectations that no human being can fully satisfy, so life gradually strips them away. This process does not happen gently. It happens through silence, through distance, through disappointment, through moments when you are forced to sit alone with your thoughts. You begin to see yourself more clearly. You begin to recognize patterns. You begin to understand where you abandoned yourself in the past. You learn that love is not meant to save you. You learn that another person cannot fill the spaces you have not healed. You learn that authentic connection begins with wholeness rather than emptiness. Then there comes a moment when something shifts within you. You stop needing them. You stop searching for signs. You stop waiting for a message that you believe will change your life. You stop hoping they will return so you can finally feel complete. And that moment is not bitter. It is peaceful. This is where destiny begins moving again. Not because you tried harder, but because you released the need for a specific outcome. Real love is not dependence. It is choice. When both people can stand on their own, love becomes a desire rather than a survival tool. That is when alignment begins. If they return different. They return more aware. They return more mature. They return capable of something deeper than before. And if they do not return, the lesson still remains. You are no longer the same person who entered the connection. You are stronger, you are clearer, you are more grounded, you have fully integrated what was meant to be learned. That is the truth of destined connections. They are not about possession, they are about transformation. They enter your life not necessarily to remain forever in the same form, but to awaken you, change you, and guide you toward a deeper understanding of love, self-respect, and inner growth. When people who are truly meant for each other come back into one another's lives, something feels quietly different. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it does not demand attention. Instead, it feels steady. Your body relaxes before your mind even understands why. There is less tension in your thoughts, less fear about what could go wrong, and far less ego trying to prove something. You are no longer performing or protecting yourself the way you once did. What appears instead is honesty. The kind that feels natural and effortless. The kind that does not require explanations or defenses. The connection feels calmer because both people have already gone through chaos on their own. It feels deeper because they have looked within themselves and faced their own shadows. It feels clearer because old illusions have already been broken. It is not perfect, and it never claims to be, but it is aware. Both people understand that love by itself is not enough. It must be supported by maturity, responsibility, communication, trust, and consistent effort. The fantasy has faded away. What remains is something far more valuable, something real, something conscious, something built on truth rather than imagination. That is why reunions that are truly meant to happen often feel surprisingly peaceful. The intensity that once created confusion is replaced with understanding. The fear that once created distance is replaced with openness. The uncertainty that once controlled the connection is replaced with clarity. Neither person is trying to complete the other anymore. They are simply choosing each other from a place of wholeness, and that changes everything. Because the strongest connections are not the ones that survive without challenges. They are the ones that survive transformation. They are the ones that allow both people to grow, evolve, and return with a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. That is the hidden truth behind destined love. It is not about finding someone who removes every difficulty from your life. It is about meeting someone whose presence becomes a catalyst for growth, someone who inspires change, someone who helps awaken parts of you that were waiting to be discovered. Whether they stay, leave, return, or move on, their purpose remains meaningful, because the greatest gift of a destined connection is not always the relationship itself. Sometimes it is the person you become because of it. There is awareness in the way words are spoken, in how silence is respected, and in how boundaries are honored. There are no games being played, no hidden motives, and no need to test one another's feelings. There is no uncertainty about where you stand. There is simply recognition, like rediscovering a familiar truth, only this time with maturity, wisdom, and inner strength behind it. And sometimes, even with all of this, those people do not find their way back to each other. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, yet the destiny between them was still real. The connection was not imagined. It was not a mistake. It was not time wasted. Not every destined connection is meant to last forever. Some are meant to exist only long enough to transform you. Some are meant to enter your life, shake your inner world, and then leave once their purpose has been fulfilled. There are connections that enter your life to break cycles that have been carried through generations. These are the relationships that expose patterns you learned long before you ever had a choice. They reveal where love was confused with sacrifice, where attachment was mistaken for safety, and where silence was mistaken for peace. These connections force you to recognize what you have been carrying that was never truly yours. They bring hidden pain to the surface so it can finally be healed instead of repeated. Other connections arrive to teach you self-love when you have been neglecting yourself. They reflect back the ways you allow yourself to be treated. Through them, you begin to see where you settle, where you make yourself smaller and where you abandon your own needs simply to keep someone close. They awaken you to the truth that love should never cost you your dignity, your voice, or your sense of self. These lessons can be painful, but they are necessary. Without them, you might have continued giving too much while asking for too little. Some destined people awaken emotional depth within you. They make you feel emotions you had buried long ago. They remind you that you're capable of deep care, vulnerability, and genuine connection. Even if they leave you more open than you were before. Others redirect the entire course of your life. Meeting them changes the choices you make, the standards you set, and the direction in which you move. They do not stay because their role was never meant to be permanent. Their role was to prepare you for what comes next. That does not make these connections meaningless. It makes them sacred. Sacred things are not always permanent. They are valuable because of what they awaken within you, not because of how long they remain.